Okay.
There's
All right.
Jen
All set.
Psaki on your TV right now.
There she is. Right. Exactly.
It's like so funny. So
Yeah.
that's kind of weird.
I'll often watch sports down here in the basement on the weekend, but when I got to do a Zoom call for a news interview, this works out just fine too.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
great.
All right. 3, 2. All right. Here with Heather Boushey with the White House Council of Economic Advisors to talk about the American Rescue Plan. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
The president's relief plan still being negotiated in Congress. It's a big package, nearly $2 trillion. What would that money do to help in the midst of this pandemic? And how do you respond to those who say it's too much?
Well, this package has been calibrated to address the challenges in front of us. It starts off with funds and resources to go to states and communities all across the country to deal with the pandemic, to provide them with the resources to reopen schools safely, to make sure that we get that vaccine out to everybody all across the country, to make sure that people have the protective gear and the support that they need as we sort of weather this crisis through the pandemic. And then the rest of the money is focused on making sure that businesses and families have the resources that they need to help us through this crisis, right? So, extra unemployment benefit, direct checks to families, support for childcare, and paid leave. So, there's a whole host of elements here, but it's all focused on one goal: deal with the pandemic and keep families and businesses and communities whole while we do so, so that we have a strong economy on the other side.
What about the impact here in Indiana? There are provisions in the bill to help state and local governments. What would that entail?
Well, so some of those resources will help state, governments all across the state and the state government be able to focus on opening schools safely, being able to have the resources to do what they need to deal with the pandemic. We know that state budgets are feeling the pinch because tax revenues are down, because so many folks are out of work. So this gives them those extra resources, and we know that the virus has caused extra expenses. Maybe it's in healthcare, wherever it is in the state or those communities, these resources will help them be able to cope with it. And then importantly, the money that goes directly to families and to people, that's also going to help the states because, for every family that gets a direct check and then can pay their rent and isn't evicted, that's a family that is not homeless in your community who's struggling to figure out what to do next. And that's just one example. But things like making sure that people can put food on the table, making sure they can access healthcare, that's all going to help state and local budgets as well.
So this proposal also includes a hike in the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Indiana Senator Mike Braun called that a one-size-fits-all approach that he said wouldn't work insofar as what might work in New York City may not work in Indiana, in his words. He said, quote, you might get some benefits from raising incomes, but you're going to lose, he thinks, between 1 million and 1.5 million jobs in the most hard-hit area in the restaurant industry. How do you respond to that?
Well, we have a lot of empirical evidence on what happens when you raise the minimum wage. And mind you, we've had a federal minimum wage since the 1930s, and it's been one minimum wage across every community, and then states and localities sometimes raise it above that level. But what we know from the large body of empirical research that's been done, especially over the past 20 years, is that when you raise the minimum wage, it increases the amount of money that those folks have, they can spend in their community. It improves family income and earnings, right? Earnings and income. And at the same time, we have not seen large effects on employment. And that might come as a surprise. Like, well, if you raise the wage, then obviously firms are going to hire fewer people. But in fact, what businesses do is because this is happening to every business across the economy, right? It's not just happening to one restaurant, it's happening to every single one. They can all raise their prices a little bit to be consistent with their competitors. But then what you see a lot of businesses doing is using the workers they have a little bit more efficiently. And what you don't see is these large negative employment effects.
Concerns about the bill aren't coming in entirely from Republicans. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers also said it was too big. How do you respond to that? And can Congress reach a deal here in a few weeks' time before some of the previous benefits run out?
Well, let me just start with that second question. I certainly hope, for the economy's sake and for the sake of businesses and people all across the country, that Congress can make a deal and get this passed and get it to the president's desk. It is absolutely urgent. Now, in terms of the scale and does it match the problem at hand? This package was built from the ground up. It was focused on the actual needs facing communities because of the pandemic and because of the economic activity that was not happening due to the pandemic. You know, we just got data a couple weeks ago for recent unemployment and employment numbers. And what we've seen is that the pace of job growth over the past 3 months has slowed considerably, just about 29,000 jobs a month. That's much slower than nearly a million jobs per month in the prior 3 months. That is an indication of the enormous need out there, the need for, across families, the needs in communities, and that is what this package is designed to do. I think that the evidence is on the side that doing too little right now will be far more damaging to our society and to our economy than perhaps doing a little bit too much. Now, time will tell, but we do need to get those resources out to communities, and we do know that there's an urgent need, and we know that need is significant.
That was a debate as well back in 2009 with the stimulus plan as well. How much to do at one time. Heather Boushey with the White House Council of Economic Advisors. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Heather. Take care. Thanks a
You
lot.
too.
Yep.
Thanks.
Take care. Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Bye.